when you only have 1 or maybe 2% of your market in a buying stage right now, Jeremy, how does that impact the cold outreach messages that you craft? I want to discuss this with you because some markets, we're aware that not every buyer is ready to go now, next week, next month, even next year, right? So how do we approach those kinds of markets?
Yeah, like for example, infrastructure, like you have to rechange your whole infrastructure, your servers, your stuff like that. You really need to wait
Okay.
until it's over. Is that the type of market we're talking about?
Exactly. Like
Right.
the example in my head is if you're a headhunter or a recruiter that places CMOs, you're only going to hire a CMO
Oh, I see.
once every 5 years, or I don't know what the turnover is, but it's not every month. And so, how do you do a good job of outreach in these kinds of markets?
Huh.
So,
Okay. I'm down.
thought provoking, thought provoking. I see two angles you could take, but so we don't ramble. Let's
Oh
throw
yeah.
on that 10-minute timer that we just discovered has music that shuts you up if you go past it.
Yeah. Let's stick
And
within
while
the
you're
10
looking
minutes
for
then.
it, that's right. While you're looking for it, our show sponsors today are quickmail.com and salesbread.com. Quickmail is going to be the cold email platform that you want to grab if you want to send like the best agencies out there, right, Jeremy?
Yep, 100%.
And SalesBread will bring you a lead a day if you don't want to do everything yourself. That's salesbread.com for ultra personalized outreach. Okay. Um, so we got our handy timer. Now, Jeremy, I see two options here, and it depends on how large your market is. If you have infinity prospects, and let's just pretend as a thought experiment, you really do have infinity prospects out there. I say assume the sale and send a lot of messages that are, let's talk about getting you set up with this week in a
Uh,
market that has no limit.
yeah, sure. I'll be slightly worried about, obviously the deliverability when you're sending like to so many people that may absolutely not be interested. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll be slightly worried, but at the same time, like I mentioned,
If it's infinite.
yeah, and yeah, like I mentioned in a previous episode, we talked about this already. The guy who actually sent like 40,000 emails every day, and he's still getting like shit
Fine.
tons of replies, and he's all fine, and
Mm-hmm.
he's doing very well, just because his market is
Right.
so huge. So
There you go.
there is that
So let's
possibility.
let's bring it down to earth. Not there is never a market that is infinite.
He's not
And
contacting
so
Mars, I can tell you. It's not many
Mars. Yeah.
prospect on Mars.
At least right now. So what do? I think the smaller your market, the more you have to respect the fact that your buyer could be an amazing customer for you in 2 years. And you better make
Yeah,
sure that your outreach cues up the conversation down the road, not shoots it in the foot.
I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's a lot of markets like that where there's a tight-knit community of people, and
Mm, you
they
burn it.
don't renew that often because you always have, the sort of like top dogs of this industry, and they kind of like stay,
Yeah,
at the top for a very long time. So yeah, you have a
there you
different
go.
approach.
Um, okay, so I would like to talk about what that approach might look like if maybe, let's say there's maximum 2,000 prospects in your market. You might be selling business insurance or some high ticket item that only comes around, let's say, once every 5 years to a
Yep.
company. I think step one is working with your list builder to figure out how can you get smarter about identifying the 1% that's ready to buy right now. Okay, that's easier said than done, but there's an opportunity, there's a lever to pull right there. What about you, Jeremy? So does that check out with you? Would you do something different?
No, I think that works. Again, I think it depends slightly on the market, and then your listener could obviously just relate to their own market. I remember when I actually reached out to financial planner in Australia, there was like 1800s. Like literally,
Okay.
there was like 1800s available. They have like a directory association. Like those were the leads I had to work with,
Nice.
and sometimes it may not be cold outreach per se. Like maybe you have something to sell. Maybe the clever way is not to sell your thing, but to sell a community or to
There you
sell,
go.
a speaking event. So engagement stuff that actually get you in the,
Yep.
in that market, and then you can grow from here. That's one way. And then you learn if
I
they're in that
love
1%
that.
buying at the moment or not.
So let's get concrete. I heard a great example of this. Imagine a campaign that you're using to simply recruit members for a new LinkedIn group where you're going to
Hmm.
find potential buyers and get them in a community that is based around a common challenge or end goal that they have. And the idea is 3 years from now, when needs come up, you're the go-to, and hopefully sooner than 3 years. But you kind of need to play the relationship game, right?
You know what I'm wondering, like, Jack, and I'd like to get your take on this. Some Facebook group are like, I don't know, I'm just saying like something random, but it is like, digital nomad for 40 years and plus, or 50 years and plus. So it's basically a senior
Okay.
digital nomad. I saw that and was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's interesting. That's very niche.
Yeah.
But,
Uh-huh.
it's always like you have to request to enter those groups. So that request could actually be a signal that, oh, this person having exactly the criteria that I want for my list. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And then you just
Wow.
have actually just Facebook recommending that to other people. So Facebook is doing a sort of like outreach in a sense. And then
Interesting,
people will
right?
then just, signal interest. And then you reach out to them with offers for that very niche. And that could be like, I don't know, like DevOps loving to replace Amazon service or loving to move from Amazon to, something else. And then you provide that
There you go.
services or whatever. Those are the
Right.
things that I'm thinking of that are probably more clever than reaching out to the entire market when only 1% is going to be interested
Yeah.
and the other
I,
99 will perceive it as spam. So
I've got another play, Jeremy. So
nice.
we had, I think I would consider him one of the more innovative salespeople we've had on our show. If we go back during the COVID days, we had a really good sales VP join us, and he said, "Look, we're selling something that people don't buy very often, but when they do, it's a big deal. Think tech infrastructure." And he's like, "But we knew during COVID that all these companies, they needed masks and they couldn't get them. Luckily for us,
Yeah, I
we had a
remember that
supplier
one.
that had a bunch." So he's like, "Look." He's like, our cold emails weren't doing so hot, but they did a campaign that was like, look, we don't know each other, but we're hoping to become business associates at some point. We want to do business with you. But for right now, we just got a shipment of 5,000 N95 masks. I wondered if it'd be helpful to share your team 200 of them. Is that valuable? I'm not going to ask for much down the road, but it started a ton of conversations. And the replies I got were like, hey, John, yes, that would be great. And feel free to send along whatever you have. And they closed business from it. So
Yeah.
maybe think of outside of the industry ways that you would be able to add value today, even if they're not in a buying cycle. I think that's one of the better takeaways I've gotten from a guest.
It reminds me a little bit like it's still the same product, but it reminds me like, hey, Jack, is it okay if we send you for free a test sample of what we're offering, every lunch or whatever, those sort of like food
Yeah,
deliveries type
sure.
of stuff. It's like, sure, you're gonna get it. And there is a reciprocity coming in, like, well, maybe we could do it once a month or,
There you
whatever, those
go.
sort of things.
There you go.
It's a good way. Or the t-shirt guy, is you send like a few t-shirts with your logo and it's just like, okay, cool. If we ever need t-shirts or whatever, we probably need that
There you
company
go.
that they just made itself, available.
Correct. Now, I think the trick here is make sure that you're not just jumping the gun and sending these people the N95 mask or the free t-shirt. Get them to request it from you. And that's
That's
a
right.
big difference. I had a client, Jeremy, this is interesting, but he wrote a book on marketing for a certain niche industry.
Okay.
Let's call it marketing for chiropractors. And he thought the book was pretty damn good, and he sent it out to 1,000 chiropractors. Do
No
you know
one
how much
cared.
response he got? Not one. You know why?
Oh, no one
Because
cared.
how
They know
how
they
hard is
didn't
it?
ask.
It's like this. It's like how many people read a book that they really, really want to read? Maybe half, right?
That's
How many
right.
people read a book that they never asked for? Zero, for
Zero.
sure, zero. So keep
That's
that
a
in
good one.
mind as you're thinking of offers. But I think this is the right way to think about cold outreach when you know there's a 99% chance that your buyer ain't a buyer right now. And so how do you still add value? That's the question to be asked. And actually, Jeremy, this is your superpower. If you're listening and you're in this space, is think, all right, I'm about to send this message to this buyer, and I'm going to assume that they're good to go. They have no need for me today. What can I offer them right now that would be a value nonetheless? And if you can think through, you're going to be a very effective salesperson or marketer with that attitude.
Oh, that's beautifully said. That reminds me that sometimes I reach out to my market without necessarily asking for anything in exchange. As in like, hey, I'm in Miami Beach, Florida.
Right.
Is it cool if we, go and
want to grab a donut?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a salty donut. That'd be awesome. But it's like, would you be okay to just have I'd be happy to share everything I know about deliverability and so on. You don't have to use our product. I just like to, mingle with great people, in my industry. And then that's it.
There you go.
Like if you're expecting nothing in exchange, there's more chances that you're gonna meet. And when you meet people in, person, it's a whole different ball game. It really is. And here's the China.
Good point.
I don't know if people hear it on the video, but it's just hilarious. Anyway.
Let's pretend they do, and eventually we'll get a review saying they're funny or they're good, but I think they may be losing their minds.
That's true.
They're hearing
only
things.
370 episodes, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I do think this was a well done episode. So check out quickmail.com, check out salesbread.com, and course.quickmail.io if you want some mo. But Jeremy, thanks for joining, and you listener, use this to your advantage, even if you're in a market where 1% is buying.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Jack.